Keeping you alive does not compute. Here's your look at the new Super7, the worst ultimates, Robot Reaper, Robotic Harbinger of Death. System warning, Robot Reaper, the robotic harbinger of death, has been detected. This eerie electronic emissary of eternal extermination is hardwired for horror and programmed for pain. A cold, calculating computer with a corrupted file, it cuts and pastes from the living column to the dead. Mercy does not compute. Each victim faces a binary decision, and Robot Reaper always chooses 0 for delete. Escape is impossible. Everyone will be powered down. Rebooting is not an option. Press any key to continue. Oh sure, Blue Oyster Cult told us not to fear the Reaper, but did they know there was a robotic Reaper roaming around? Probably not. Before, of course, we get a closer look at the Robot Reaper, let's grab the tape measure. According to the tape measure, it tells us that the figure stands 7 inches in height. It also tells us that he's about 17 centimeters tall. What, though, my tape measure doesn't tell us is how he scales up with the other figures. So let's bring in and compare, along with Robot Reaper, Black Falcon, the undead warlord of doom. And earlier as well, we did have a look at this guy. Here's what he looks like as well with Bachelor, Bat Prince of Darkness. Warning, warning, Robot Reaper does come included with a lot of accessories. I don't even know why I did do that. The figure, first of all, comes included with a pixelized time clock, or Sands of Time. I love the way they've actually done this. I would imagine this becomes something he carries around with him to tell you exactly when your time's run out. It's been molded mostly here in black plastic, but you can see that they've actually painted both sides of the hourglass, as flat as it may be, in a very nice metallic silver. It can be fit in his hand with the existing hand that he has right now. It's just a case, actually, that I just wedged it against the thumb and the pointer finger, and it seems to be enough that he actually can hold it okay. He doesn't hold it fantastic, but he holds it well enough that I don't have to worry that's going to fall out of his hand as I say that. The figure also as well comes included with a floppy disk, if I can actually pick this up. The floppy disk is rather interesting. You can see there on the label on the front. It says, what does it say? People to destroy. Or no, people to delete. Oh, my own eyes playing tricks on me. A nicely small little version of the floppy disk. I remember having these in school. Boy, do I ever date myself by saying that. Again, it's cast here in black plastic with a little label there, as hard as it was for my old eyes to see. Very nicely little printed label there on the top of it. One thing as blast to the past, the figure comes included with a Game Boy. I would imagine this to be a Game Boy Color, as the original Game Boys would have been all white. I never had a Game Boy Color. I did have a regular Game Boy, but I never elevated or added the color Game Boy to my collection. I was kind of then going into Game Gear. Anybody even remember Game Gear? Yeah, the Game Boy Color, as I'm probably guessing this to be, is all a blue molded little... It doesn't really actually say Game Boy on it, but we all know exactly what it is. And this, again, can't be fit in his hand. He basically has all these remnants of all the years before him. The fact that he even includes, first of all, a floppy disk and a color Game Boy, I mean, that's nice little accessories on Super7's part. The figure also as well comes include with some swappable hands. Currently, you may notice in the forums right now, he has actually gripping hands for any one of those accessories we had a look at. If you prefer, though, a slightly smaller grip, then he also has these. These are good for holding, for example, his mace and sickle, although really the sickle is something that he's going to be swapped out for one of these hands anyways. So really, it's only just the mace that he's going to be coming included, or that big long sickle he's going to be coming included with. These are, again, molded nicely here, and I'm guessing to be silver plastic, and just added a little bit of extra wash on that goes a long way. The figure also comes included with a pair of closed fists. Probably not even going to see a light of day. These likely will just be going back into the plastic tray because I have no use for these whatsoever. I do have maybe a use for one of these. The figure also comes included with pointing fingers to tell you your impending doom and how much time you have left on his digitized Sands of Time. He also has these pointing hands. I really like the looks of these. Swapping out the hands, by the way, is super easy. It's just a case of taking the existing hand, choosing first of all which one you want to yank from the forearm, and proceed to do that. Yank it from its forearm, although don't be so aggressive. Don't be so aggressive. You just wiggle it back and forth till finally it frees its peg. And then you're just going to go ahead and take the hand that you want to use. What was the hand I did want to use? This was the hand I wanted to use. And just plug it in place like that. Now he actually has himself a pointing hand. Now what you can also do with the other hand, we're just going to wiggle this off. Let's grab ourselves a gripping hand. If your choice for figure displaying involves him using the sickle or scythe, you'd like to call it a scythe as well. He also has this as well, and it's just a case of clipping it into his forearms, well, not his forearms. You bring his hands out, for example, and just clip this inside his grip like this, and the figure can be displayed with that. Or really, I mean, there's also these handles on the sides there too. You can also have him just holding the sickle that way. Keep calling a sickle a scythe. You can also hold it from the handles there also as well. One really neat accessory that he also comes included with, I know we didn't really spend a whole lot of time actually looking at the sickle. There I go, calling it again. The scythe, molded nicely here in brown plastic. Get some additional afforded black and some silver there, and a long blade as well. Really nice to look at this. But what I really like is this. He comes included with this swapped out sickle. We're going to call this a sickle now? Yes, apparently we are. This does just simply swap out for existing hands. So if you wanted to, for example, you just take the hand from his forearm, pop that off. We won't make the sound effects for that. And just plug this back in place. And now the figure actually has himself a sickle. Between the sickle and the pointing hand, he's good to go for claiming lives. Love the look of that. One thing also that comes included as well with the Robot Reaper is interchangeable head sculpts. Now he has, let me just rewind myself a little bit here. Defaulted, he comes with this head sculpt here, which I think is a worthy candidate if you want to have him just displayed as is. The grimace teeth, the large red eyes all work really well for a Robotic Reaper. And again, there's really nice sculpting on him. He has these kind of holes on the side. They're actually just more painted in place. I initially looked at it and I thought, wait, something's supposed to plug inside? Then I realized I was an idiot. That's actually just painted in black instead. But it's a really nice looking head sculpt. If you, though, prefer something a little bit more robotic, he also comes included with this one as well. This looks more, I feel, like a skeleton if a skeleton was a robot. And he also comes included with this one that kind of looks like he should be flying around on a futuristic hovering motorcycle. Just kind of the vibe that I'm getting with this one. I don't like this one as much as I like the other two. I think if anything, I probably would settle on either the existing head that he has or probably this head sculpt instead. Changing out the heads is just a case of popping off the existing head, and then you just replace it with the one that you wanted to use, and that just plugs in place like that. And of course, you can just fold this up. Yeah, you know, I really, again, like this one because, again, it looks, either one of these, I feel, is something I would imagine if I was to close my eyes and have nightmares at night. This would be what I would consider a Robot Reaper to look like. And I don't really think I would necessarily feel the same when it comes to this one. Now, he has, I'm going to actually just remove this for right now. He has really, underneath all this, the inner workings of a robot. It involves, unfortunately, though, having to remove the tied knot. I really didn't want to do this, but I will do this for the sake of this review. I'm going to untie this. I've yet to actually even see what he looks like underneath. And then, of course, I'll have to figure out my knot tying skills when it comes to tying this all back together. We're just going to take that off. And then on the back, he has Velcro. So if you wanted to, you could just detach all the Velcro and, of course, remove the robe in its entirety. Just slide this all off. Not probably going to be the look I'm going to settle with when it comes to displaying the figure, but just because, again, like if he's a Robot Reaper, he needs, I feel, to have a robe. If you just remove it all together, he's literally just like a Terminator, like an endoskeleton body. But I did also want to remove this because I knew there was going to be a lot of details missed if I left the cloak still on. Like, for example, these wires that he has in the middle torso area here. You can also get the chance to see as well all the additional articulation that the figure has. Something that unfortunately would have been masked had I just kept the cloak in place in the first place. I'm going to pop the hand. I'm just going to grab a random hand for right now. Again, the existing head that we started, well, not really started with. We started with this head sculpt. If you wanted to have the figure displayed with this, I might actually even lean more to the idea of displaying the figure with this. Now, he has a little bit of marbling that usually goes with the territory of actually molding anything in silver. The marbling isn't as bad as I was worried about. I mean, again, he's got all this nice additional black. It sort of simulates what a skeleton body would look like. Instead of actually bones, it replaces it out with sort of metallic silver finish instead. And of course, you got the wires there of blue and red. It's a really interesting looking thing. But to call it again Reaper, I feel even though all the work that Super7 put into the piece in the first place will although ultimately just be masked anyways when I just put the cloak back on his body. If it was just called Robot would be one thing. I would definitely be all for the idea of displaying the figure like this. But if you're going to call him a Reaper, I feel not only should he really be displayed with some sickle or scythe of some sort, but I feel like he also really should belong to have a cloak. That's my own personal opinion. For the figure's articulation, his head sculpt is going to be on a ball joint, so it rotates all the way around. The head also allows the head, well, I should say the ball joint, allows the head to look down this far, this up, and this back and forth. The upper torso is on a ball joint, which again would have not been seen had I kept the cloak on. You'd never be able to really see not only the detailing, but all the posability as well that the figure does possess. Arms do rotate all the way around. You can bring those arms out at about 90 degrees, a little less than that, just because again, like if you look at the shoulders, there's a lot of large shoulder happening here that he can't get quite 90 degrees. I would say more closer to about 45. The figure has a bicep swivel. He also possesses a single hinge in the elbow, which also grants him, too, a swivel in his forearm, and you can rotate the hands all the way around with a hinge back and forth. We've already established the fact that the figure does have upper torso posability. You can split the legs out also as well. They're on ball joints. He has no swivel here, even though really looking at it, it looks like there's almost a cut for a swivel in the thigh. More though, he actually has a swivel at the top of the thigh. Figure has a hinge in the knee, but the knees are extremely tight. This knee, I can't budge. I'm probably going to have to even heat that up with hot water. This knee does bend, but it bends at a much tighter place, a really tighter joint than actually the earlier looked at figures we've looked at so far, like Black Falcon. And the figure finally does have toe articulation, if you really would call these toes, and he also can sway these back and forth as well. I mean, ultimately, the thing about this, though, as well, as good as he may look as he is right now, ultimately, though, I just feel like I'm going to be putting the cloak back on him, sort of in the same way as what I did here when we looked at the earlier looked at Black Falcon. Black Falcon looked great. He looked great, really, without his cape, but I feel like the cape adds something. It adds pizzazz, it adds charm, it adds personality. I feel also the same thing also for Robot Reaper. To be a robot harbinger of death, I don't think it cuts it just having the figure displayed as a skeleton alone, which is why, of course, just after wrapping up this review, I'm probably going to find myself putting the cloak back on him so he can actually fitfully, rightfully belong as a Robot Reaper. Because a Reaper, you really you'd like to think that he's going to have a cloak, and you certainly would like to think that he's going to have a scythe. And really, just by displaying him like this, he looks just like an everyday robot. A scary everyday robot, but still an everyday robot anyways. It's funny, actually, when you remove the cloak, he looks less like a Reaper and more like robotic farm help. I guess the farmers employed these robots to tend to the crops and scare away the crows. Warning, warning, crow invading. No, that's just me. I just want to pick my corn. The thing about the figure, though, is as much detail and paint applications that Super7 applied to the figure what he looks like underneath the cloak. Ultimately, though, because he's a Robot Reaper, I'm only just going to put the cloak back on him after this review's wrapped up. Had he been called just Evil Robot, or had he been called, say, Robotic Farmer, that's one thing. Then I would just have the figure displayed like that. I might just be tempted, oh, here I go, being nudged in the direction of spending more money. I might just find myself getting actually a second one of these. I don't think it changed all that much, really, when it came to, for example, to the earlier looked at Black Falcon. Black Falcon, by just removing the cape, he still looks like the same figure, but with such the changes made when just removing the cloak on this guy, I'm so tempted just to get another one of these. Display one as the Reaper, one as the Evil Robot. I might just end up doing that. Well, if you are interested to get this one for yourself, as already mentioned, I did find this one over on Entertainment Earth. Clicking the link that I was providing down below in the video description, I'm going to be providing down below in the video description, will not only take you directly to the listing of this guy, but also as well, while you're there and you want to get more than just the Reaper, you can also use that same link and save 10% on anything that's currently on site, in stock, over on Entertainment Earth. What do you guys think, though, of the Robot Reaper? Is this a figure that you could see yourselves picking up? And if you have picked him up already, do you have him displayed with or without the cloak? Pressure time, pressure time. Let me know down below in the comments section. Certainly as well, if you guys enjoyed this video, I want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing, and you certainly would like to stick around for more, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Don't let the pressures of some evil farming robot scare you. But make sure as well you turn on the bell notification so you're going to get those reminders every single time a new video posts. If you also would like to go back and see my reviews of the earlier looked at worst figures, you can also as well check out that Super7 playlist. It should be popping up. I'm only kidding. It's not popping up right now. It's going to be popping up as I'm wrapping things up and we kind of transition into that outro. It's going to be popping up right there. But you can click that playlist and certainly check out the other things I've looked at from Super7. That includes, in fact, yes, the worst. That also includes the recently looked at Transformers Ultimates, Silverhawks, Ren and Stimpy. I'm trying to think of all of them. Simpsons, Thundercats, and I think G.I. Joe. I think that covers all of them. I'm sure I'm missing something. Oh, I did do some Disney too. But basically all the Super7 stuff will be there in the playlist. Feel free, if you have a little bit of time on your hands, check that out. There's definitely going to be a lot more videos coming your way, guys. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.